At my brother's wedding, he mocked me in his speech, then his bride exposed the truth to all. I never thought my brother's wedding would turn out to be such a disaster. Well, a disaster for him, anyway. For me, it turned out to be surprisingly vindicating, though I wouldn't have believed it if someone had told me beforehand how things would unfold. Let me start from the beginning. My brother and I have never had the best relationship. Growing up, he was always the golden child in our family. 2 years older than me, he moved to the city after college, landing what he described as a high-powered corporate job that apparently paid extremely well. Meanwhile, I stayed in our hometown, working as a librarian at the local library. It's not glamorous, but I love books, I love helping people, and I genuinely enjoy the quiet satisfaction of organizing knowledge and connecting readers with stories that might change their lives. My brother, however, saw my career choice as proof of my lack of ambition. Still shelving books in that dead-end job? He'd ask whenever he visited home for holidays. Don't you want to actually do something with your life? I'd smile and change the subject, refusing to engage. Our parents would occasionally defend me, but they also seemed to share his belief that I was somehow wasting my potential by not chasing money and status in a bigger city. The truth is, I'm happy here. I have good friends, I'm active in community projects, and I find meaning in what I do. But my brother could never understand that. In his world, success meant designer suits, fancy cars, and dropping casual references to his important meetings and business trips. When he got engaged last year, I was genuinely happy for him. His fiancée seemed nice enough the few times I'd met her, though I couldn't help feeling she was a bit overwhelmed by my brother's personality. Still, I hoped they'd be happy together, and I looked forward to attending their wedding as a supportive sibling, despite our differences. The ceremony itself was nice, held at a pleasant venue that I suspected was chosen by the bride's family. It wasn't as lavish as I expected given my brother's constant bragging about his wealth, but it was tasteful. I sat with our parents in the front row, watching as they exchanged vows, and for a moment, I felt a genuine connection to my brother that I hadn't felt in years. That warm feeling lasted until the reception. After dinner, it was time for speeches. The bride's father gave a lovely welcome to my brother. The best man shared some, mostly appropriate stories from their college days, and then my brother stood up to give his groom's speech. He started normally enough, thanking everyone for coming, saying sweet things about his new wife, and expressing gratitude to both sets of parents. Then he turned his attention to me. And of course, I have to mention my little brother, he said, raising his glass in my direction. I smiled automatically, though something in his tone made me tense up. For those who don't know him, he's our hometown hero. If by hero, you mean the guy who still works at the local library. There were a few uncomfortable chuckles from the guests. You know, when we were kids, our parents always said we could be anything we wanted. I guess my brother took that literally and decided to be nothing much at all. My smile froze on my face. I could feel heat rising to my cheeks as he continued. Some people are just content with mediocrity, right bro? No ambition, no drive, no desire to see the world or make something of themselves. Just happy to stay in the same small town, living the same small life. I glanced at our parents, hoping for some intervention, but they were looking down at their plates, seemingly uncomfortable but not willing to stop him. Remember that online business you tried to start? He continued, addressing me directly now. What was it again? Custom bookmarks or something equally exciting? How long did that last before it tanked? 3 months? It had actually been a small side business creating personalized book recommendations and curated reading lists, combining my knowledge of literature with my desire to help people find books that spoke to them personally. It hadn't worked out financially, but it wasn't the embarrassing failure he was making it out to be. Anyway, he said, laughing slightly, I guess I should thank my brother for being such a perfect example of what not to do with your life. He made it easy for me to look good by comparison. He raised his glass higher. To family, even the underachieving members. People drank uncomfortably. I sat there, mortified, trying to maintain some dignity as I felt dozens of eyes on me, a mixture of pity and second-hand embarrassment in their gazes. I wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor and vanish. Just as my brother was about to sit down, apparently satisfied with his public humiliation of me, his new wife stood up. She took the microphone from him, her face set in an expression I couldn't quite read. I think I'd like to say a few words now, she said, her voice steady despite the tension in the room. My brother looked surprised but pleased. Of course, babe, all yours. She took a deep breath. First, I want to apologize to everyone, especially to my new brother-in-law, for what you just heard. That was completely inappropriate and cruel. The room went silent. My brother's smug smile faltered. I've been debating whether to do this for weeks, she continued. I was hoping today would change my mind, that I'd see a different side of the man I agreed to marry. Instead, I just witnessed him publicly mock his brother, who by all accounts is a kind, intelligent person who contributes positively to his community. My brother tried to take the microphone back. Honey, I think you've had too much champagne. She stepped away from him. No, I haven't. In fact, I'm thinking more clearly than I have in months. She turned to address the room again. You all just heard my new husband mock his brother for his supposed lack of success, portraying himself as the accomplished one. But I think it's time for some honesty. She looked directly at my brother, whose face had gone pale. Want to tell them, or should I? This isn't the time, he started. But she cut him off. He's about to be fired from his job, she announced. He's been taking credit for other people's work for months, and his boss finally caught on. The only reason he hasn't been let go already is that they're building a case against him. Gasps rippled through the reception hall. I sat frozen, unable to process what I was hearing. All those business trips he's been bragging about? Most of them were made up. He was staying with friends or even just in a cheap motel across town, pretending to be away on important business. My brother was now frantically trying to get her to stop, but she continued. The fancy car he drives? Leased. And he's 3 months behind on payments. The designer clothes? Mostly knockoffs or purchased on credit cards that are maxed out. He's so deep in debt that he's been secretly asking his parents for money, telling them it's for our wedding expenses but using it to keep up appearances. Our parents looked stunned. I realized with a shock that this was apparently news to them too. And the cruelest part, she said, her voice breaking slightly, is how he treats his brother. He's been jealous of you for years, she said, looking at me. Jealous that you're respected in your community, that you have genuine friends who care about you, that you're content with your life instead of constantly chasing status and approval. My brother finally managed to grab her arm. That's enough, he hissed. She shook him off and addressed the stunned guests. I apologize for turning this wedding into whatever this is now, but I couldn't stand by and watch him humiliate someone who doesn't deserve it, all while pretending to be something he's not. She took off her wedding ring and placed it on the table. I think I need to reevaluate some things. Then she walked out of the reception hall, leaving complete silence in her wake. For a moment, no one moved or spoke. Then my brother, face contorted with rage and humiliation, pointed at me. This is your fault, he shouted. You turned her against me. I shook my head, still trying to process everything I'd just heard. I barely know her, I said quietly. I've only met her a few times. People began murmuring, some getting up from their seats, others looking around awkwardly, unsure what to do. My brother stormed out after his bride, and the wedding reception dissolved into chaos. A distant relative came up to me and squeezed my shoulder. Are you okay? She asked. I nodded numbly, though I wasn't sure if I was okay or not. I was still processing the shock of my brother's public mockery, followed by his new wife's even more public revelation of his lies. As I sat there, watching guests awkwardly gathering their belongings and heading for the exits, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of vindication. For years, my brother had been putting me down, making me feel less than because I chose a different path in life. And now, in front of everyone who mattered to him, the truth had come out. I didn't know what would happen next with my brother, his marriage, or our family. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I could finally breathe. The weight of constantly being compared to my successful brother and found wanting had suddenly lifted. As I drove home that night, replaying the evening's events in my mind, I realized this was only the beginning. My brother would be furious, humiliated, and likely looking for someone to blame. And I had a feeling I knew exactly who that someone would be. The aftermath of my brother's wedding was exactly the mess you'd expect. The next morning, my phone was blowing up with messages from relatives and family friends, all wanting to know what happened and if I was okay. I responded to a few of them, mostly just saying I was fine and needed some time to process everything. 3 days after the disaster wedding, I got a call from my brother's bride, or I guess technically his wife, since they did legally get married before everything fell apart at the reception. Hey, she said when I answered. I hope it's okay that I'm calling you. Of course, I replied, curious about why she was reaching out to me. How are you doing? She sighed heavily. Not great, to be honest. I'm staying with my parents right now. I wanted to apologize to you. Apologize? Why would you need to apologize to me? For not saying something sooner? For letting him treat you that way for so long? I've seen how he talks to you at family gatherings, and I should have called him out before it got to this point. I was stunned. That's really kind of you to say, but you don't owe me an apology. If anything, I should be thanking you for standing up for me at the reception. Well, it wasn't just for you, she admitted. It was for me too. I've been ignoring red flags for months, making excuses for his behavior. When he started mocking you during his speech, something just snapped. I couldn't be part of it anymore. We talked for a while longer. She shared more details about my brother's lies and financial troubles, and it was even worse than what she'd revealed at the wedding. Not only was he facing potential termination from his job, but he had also racked up nearly $70,000 in credit card debt trying to maintain his facade of success. He'd been borrowing money from our parents under false pretenses, claiming he was investing it in promising opportunities when he was actually using it to pay minimum balances on his maxed-out cards. There's something else you should know, she said hesitantly. He's been telling your parents that you've been asking him for money over the years. He made it seem like he was helping you out financially. My blood boiled. What? I've never asked him for a cent. I know that now, she said. But I think your parents believed him. He would tell them these stories about how you were struggling to make ends meet but were too proud to ask them directly for help. So he'd pretend to be the generous big brother, claiming he was sending you money regularly. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. All this time, while I was living within my means and building a modest but stable life, my brother had been painting me as a financial failure dependent on his charity, all while secretly draining money from our parents for himself. I've got bank statements, she continued, and text messages where he admits to lying about this. If you want them, they're yours. I'm filing for an annulment, and I don't plan to protect him anymore. I thanked her for the information and her honesty. After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence, trying to process everything I'd learned. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Not just at my brother's lies, but at myself for allowing his narrative about me to go unchallenged for so long. The next day, I received a barrage of text messages from my brother. Hope you're happy now that you've ruined my life. Always knew you were jealous of me, you and my wife planning this together? How long have you been talking behind my back? Mom and Dad are devastated because of you. I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I called our parents and asked if I could come over to talk. They agreed, though they sounded hesitant. When I arrived at their house that evening, my brother's car was in the driveway. I almost turned around and left. But then I decided this confrontation might as well happen now, with all of us present. Our mom answered the door with red, puffy eyes. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, hugging me tightly. "What a mess all this is." Dad was sitting in his usual armchair in the living room, looking tired and older than I remembered. My brother was pacing by the window, and he glared at me when I walked in. Well, he said sarcastically. "Look who's here to gloat." "I'm not here to gloat," I replied calmly. "I'm here to talk about the lies you've been telling." "Lies? That's rich coming from you. You turned my wife against me." Our dad held up his hand. "That's enough. We're going to have a civilized conversation or not have one at all." He gestured for me to sit down. I took a deep breath. "Mom, Dad, I got a call from your daughter-in-law yesterday. She told me some things I think you need to hear." "She's delusional," my brother interrupted. "She's making up stories because she's having second thoughts about the marriage." "Let him speak," our mom said, surprising me with her firmness. I looked directly at my parents. "Has he been telling you that I've been asking him for money? That he's been helping me financially?" Their uncomfortable expressions told me everything. Dad shifted in his seat. "He mentioned you were having some difficulties." "I've never asked him for a single dollar," I stated firmly. "Not once. I've been completely financially independent since college. Meanwhile, he's been taking money from you under false pretenses." "That's a lie," my brother shouted. "Is it?" I asked calmly. "Because your wife has bank statements and text messages that prove otherwise. She's offered to share them with me, and I'm guessing she'd be willing to share them with Mom and Dad too." The color drained from my brother's face. I continued. "She also told me about your job situation, your credit card debt, and how you've been pretending to go on business trips when you weren't." "This is ridiculous," he sputtered. But I could tell he was panicking. "You can't believe anything she says. She's clearly unstable." Our dad cleared his throat. Son, we got a call from your credit card company yesterday. They were looking for you because you've missed 3 payments. They called here because apparently, you listed our number as your alternate contact. My brother looked like he might be sick. We've given you nearly $30,000 over the past 2 years, our mom added, her voice shaking. You said it was for investments, for your future with your wife. Was that all a lie too? It's not that simple, my brother began. But he couldn't seem to find words to continue. I felt no joy in watching him squirm. This wasn't about humiliating him. It was about finally bringing the truth to light. I think, I said carefully, that it's time for all of us to be honest with each other. I'm not the failure you've been making me out to be. I live within my means, I have savings, and I genuinely love my job. It might not be glamorous or high-paying, but it's meaningful to me. I turned to my brother. And you're not the success you've been pretending to be. You've been living beyond your means, lying to everyone, and using our parents as an ATM while making them think I was the one who needed financial help. The room fell silent. Our parents looked shell-shocked. Then my brother did something I didn't expect. He broke down crying. Not a manipulative, feel sorry for me kind of crying, but deep, body-shaking sobs that seemed to come from a place of genuine despair. I'm sorry, he choked out between sobs. I'm so sorry. Everything's falling apart. My job, my marriage, everything. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just wanted everyone to be proud of me. Our mom went to him, putting her arm around his shoulders. Our dad looked at me with sad eyes. We've always been proud of both of you, he said quietly. Or we should have been. I think your mother and I have some apologies to make too. What followed was one of the most honest conversations our family had ever had. My parents admitted they'd put too much pressure on my brother to be conventionally successful, and they'd failed to show enough appreciation for my different but equally valid life choices. My brother, once he'd calmed down, acknowledged his deep insecurity and how it had driven him to create an elaborate facade that eventually consumed him. I've been jealous of you, he admitted to me, wiping his eyes. You always seemed so content, so sure of who you are and what you want. I never felt that way. I was always chasing something, always feeling like I wasn't enough. Why didn't you ever talk to me about this? I asked. He shrugged helplessly. Pride, I guess. And the longer I kept up the act, the harder it became to admit the truth. By the end of the evening, we had outlined a plan. My brother would come clean to his employer about taking credit for others' work, accept whatever consequences came from that, and start looking for a new job, a real one that matched his actual skills and experience. He would work out a repayment plan with our parents for the money he'd borrowed, and he would seek therapy to address his insecurities and tendency to lie. As for his marriage, that was between him and his wife. None of us were particularly optimistic, given how she'd left the wedding, but my brother said he would at least try to apologize sincerely for his deception. When I got home that night, I felt emotionally drained but strangely hopeful. For the first time in years, my family had been honest with each other. It wasn't pretty, and there was plenty of pain to go around, but it felt like maybe, just maybe, we could build something healthier from the ashes. That hope lasted exactly 3 weeks. At first, my brother seemed genuinely committed to turning things around. He met with his boss, confessed to his wrongdoings, and accepted termination without a fight. He started applying for more realistic jobs and set up a monthly repayment plan with our parents for the money he'd borrowed. But then, true to form, he started backsliding. It began with small lies about job interviews that seemed suspiciously impressive. Then he missed his first scheduled repayment to our parents, claiming a temporary cash flow issue but promising to make it up the following month. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, but when I ran into a former colleague of his who mentioned seeing my brother driving a brand new car, alarm bells went off. Our parents had mentioned nothing about him buying a new car, and given his financial situation, there was no way he could afford one honestly. I decided to do some digging. I reached out to his wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, as she was proceeding with the annulment, and asked if she'd be willing to meet with me. She agreed, and we met for coffee the following weekend. I'm not surprised, she said after I told her about my concerns. He's incapable of genuine change. It's all an act. But why go through the motions of apologizing and promising to make things right if he was just going to go back to lying? I asked. She gave me a sad smile. Because in the moment, he means it. When he's confronted with his lies and sees people's disappointment, he genuinely feels bad. He makes promises he intends to keep, until the discomfort passes and his need for validation takes over again. She pulled out her phone and showed me a text message she'd received from him just days earlier. "I've got a lead on an executive position that would start at $150,000. They're really interested in me. Once I get back on my feet, maybe we could talk about giving things another shot." "He doesn't have job prospects anywhere close to that level," she said, shaking her head. "After what happened at his last company, he's practically unhireable in his industry." I checked with a friend who works in HR there. They're letting recruiters know confidentially why he was terminated. We talked for another hour, comparing notes and piecing together a clearer picture of my brother's ongoing deceptions. Not only had he purchased a new car using a loan co-signed by a friend, who had no idea about his financial troubles, but he was also telling different stories to different people about his job prospects, his finances, and even the status of his marriage. Most concerning, he had started telling extended family and friends that I had exaggerated his problems out of jealousy, and that our parents were now helping him get back on his feet after I had tried to turn them against him. The final straw came when my aunt called me, concerned about why I was spreading rumors about my brother. Apparently, he'd told her I was unstable and resentful of his success, and that I'd manipulated his wife into leaving him. According to him, our parents were heartbroken about my behavior. I'd had enough. This wasn't just about protecting my reputation, it was about stopping my brother's cycle of manipulation and lies before he could hurt more people, including himself. I called his wife again and asked if she would be willing to share those bank statements and text messages she'd mentioned. She agreed without hesitation, sending me an organized folder of documents that clearly showed my brother's financial deceptions, including bank transfers from our parents to him, with corresponding text messages where he claimed the money was for investments. Credit card statements showing lavish purchases while he was claiming financial hardship. Text exchanges where he admitted to lying about sending me money. Email correspondence with his former employer about his misconduct. Armed with this evidence, I arranged another family meeting, this time making sure to invite my aunt and uncle who had been fed lies about me. I also asked my brother's friend who had co-signed his car loan to attend, feeling he deserved to know what he'd gotten himself into. My brother tried to back out when he heard who would be attending, but our parents insisted. "This ends now," our dad told him firmly. "No more lies, no more manipulation." The meeting was set for Sunday afternoon at our parents' house. I arrived early to help Mom prepare some refreshments, feeling nervous but resolved. This wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability and finally breaking the destructive patterns that had been tearing our family apart. As everyone arrived, the tension in the room was palpable. My brother sat in a corner, looking both defiant and trapped. Our aunt and uncle were confused about why they had been summoned. My brother's friend looked uncomfortable, clearly sensing something was wrong. Once everyone was seated, I stood up and took a deep breath. "Thank you all for coming," I began. "I know this is unusual, but I felt it was necessary for us to clear the air and deal with some ongoing issues as a family." My brother interrupted immediately. "If this is another attempt to make me look bad." "It's not about making you look bad," I said calmly. "It's about telling the truth. I've been hearing from various family members that you've been sharing different versions of recent events, and I think it's important that everyone hears the same facts." I distributed printed copies of some of the key documents his wife had shared with me, with personal account numbers redacted for privacy, but with all the damning details clearly visible. "These are bank statements, text messages, and emails that show a pattern of deception," I explained. "I'm not sharing these to humiliate anyone, but because I believe the only way forward is with complete honesty." Our aunt gasped as she read through the documents. My brother's friend looked increasingly distressed. My brother himself seemed to shrink in his chair, his earlier defiance evaporating. "You've been telling people that I'm spreading rumors about you out of jealousy," I continued, looking directly at my brother. "You've been claiming that our parents are supporting you because I tried to turn them against you. But these documents tell a different story." Our dad spoke up then, his voice heavy with disappointment. "We've given you every opportunity to come clean and make things right. We forgave the money you took under false pretenses. We supported your plan to build a new, honest life. But instead, you've continued to lie and manipulate everyone around you." My brother's friend stood up, visibly angry. "You told me you needed a co-signer because you'd just started a new high-paying job and didn't have enough pay stubs yet. You said you had plenty of money saved, but the bank just needed to see stability." He waved the documents in his hand. This shows you've been unemployed and in debt this whole time. I can explain, my brother began. But for once, no one was interested in his explanations. Our aunt, who had been one of his strongest supporters, looked at him with tears in her eyes. Why would you lie about your own brother like this? Why would you tell us he was spreading rumors when he's done nothing but try to help you? My brother had no answer. He just sat there, looking defeated. I took no pleasure in his humiliation. This wasn't what I wanted at all. But as painful as this confrontation was, it felt necessary, like lancing a wound to let the infection drain before healing could begin. I think we all want the same thing, I said, looking around the room. We want you to get help, to build a life based on truth rather than lies. We want to support you, but we can't do that if you won't be honest with us or yourself. Our mom, who had been quiet until now, stood up and went to my brother. We love you, she said, taking his hands in hers. But this can't continue. You need professional help, and you need to face the consequences of your actions without blaming others. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then my brother nodded slowly, his shoulders slumped in resignation. I need help, he admitted quietly. I don't know why I do this, why I can't just be honest. I don't want to keep hurting everyone, but I don't know how to stop. It was the most genuine thing I'd heard him say in years. By the end of that difficult afternoon, we had a new plan, one with more accountability built in. My brother agreed to start therapy immediately. He would allow our parents to help manage his finances temporarily, with full transparency about his income, expenses, and debts. He would work with his friend to either return the new car or take full responsibility for the loan. And most importantly, he would stop spreading lies about me or anyone else in the family. As everyone was leaving, my aunt hugged me tightly. I'm so sorry I believed him, she whispered. I should have known better. It's okay, I assured her. He's always been good at telling people what they want to hear. My brother's friend clapped me on the shoulder. Thank you for doing this, he said. It couldn't have been easy, but I needed to know the truth. After everyone had gone, I stayed behind to help my parents clean up. We were all emotionally exhausted but also relieved. For the first time, I felt like we had faced the truth as a family, without compromises or comfortable lies. I'm proud of you, my dad said, surprising me. It took courage to do what you did today. I just wanted it to stop, I replied honestly. All the lies, all the manipulation. It wasn't healthy for any of us, especially not for him. My mom nodded, wiping away a tear. We failed both of you in different ways, she said. We put too much pressure on him to be a certain kind of successful, and we didn't appreciate your kind of success enough. I hope it's not too late to fix our mistakes. I hugged them both, feeling a closeness that had been missing for too long. It's never too late, I told them, and I meant it. As I drove home that evening, I felt both drained and relieved. The road ahead wouldn't be easy for any of us, especially my brother. Real change is hard, and patterns established over decades don't disappear overnight. But for the first time in years, I had hoped that my brother might actually face his demons and find a healthier way to live. And for me, I felt liberated. The shadow of my successful brother that had hung over me for so long had finally lifted. My parents could now see me clearly, appreciate my choices, and recognize the stability and contentment I'd built for myself. It wasn't the revenge I might have fantasized about in my darkest moments of hurt and resentment. It was something better: truth, accountability, and the chance for genuine healing for all of us. 6 months after that intense family meeting, life had settled into a new rhythm. My brother was attending therapy regularly, working a modest but honest job at a local marketing firm, and slowly rebuilding his credibility with our family. He'd moved into a small apartment he could actually afford, and was sticking to the financial plan our parents had helped him create to pay off his debts. I'd like to say his transformation was immediate and complete, but that would be a lie. There were setbacks. Twice he tried to exaggerate his new position to make it sound more impressive than it was. But now that we all knew the signs, he was gently called out and would sheepishly admit the truth. The important thing was that he was trying, and for the first time in his adult life, he was living within his means and facing reality. His marriage, unfortunately, couldn't be saved. The annulment went through, and his ex-wife moved to another state for a fresh start. They maintained minimal contact, mostly regarding legal matters as they finalized their separation. I kept in touch with her occasionally, and she seemed to be doing well, dating someone new who she described as refreshingly honest. As for me, my life was also changing in unexpected ways. The public meltdown at my brother's wedding had an unforeseen positive consequence. The director of our regional library system had been a guest at the wedding, a distant cousin of my brother's ex-wife, and she'd been impressed by my dignity during the whole ordeal. More importantly, she'd checked up on my work at the local library and discovered my personalized reading recommendation service that I'd tried to turn into a business years ago. 3 months after the wedding, she called me into a meeting and offered me a new position, Community Outreach and Literacy Program Coordinator for our entire county. The job came with a significant raise, more responsibility, and the chance to develop specialized reading programs for schools, senior centers, and underserved communities. We need someone who understands that libraries are about more than just books on shelves, she told me. They're about connecting people with knowledge in ways that change lives. Your personalized recommendation system shows you get that. I accepted the position and threw myself into developing programs that brought books and resources to people who couldn't easily access the library. My first major project was creating customized reading lists and book clubs for 5 retirement communities in our county, which was an immediate hit with the residents. My parents were genuinely proud of me, not with the faint praise they'd offered in the past, but with sincere admiration for the work I was doing. My dad even volunteered to help deliver books to homebound seniors once a month, which gave us quality time together that we'd never had before. One Tuesday evening, I was working late at the library when my phone rang. It was my brother. "Hey," he said when I answered. "Are you busy?" "Just finishing up some work." "What's up?" I got some news today. Good news, actually. I wanted you to be the first to know." I braced myself, half expecting another exaggerated claim about some amazing job opportunity. "I got a promotion," he said. "Assistant account manager. It's not huge, but it's a step up. And it comes with a small raise. I didn't apply for it or anything. My boss just called me in and said I'd been doing solid work and they wanted to give me more responsibility." I could hear genuine surprise and modest pride in his voice. No grandiose claims, no inflated title or salary, just a simple, believable promotion that he'd earned through consistent work. "That's great," I said, genuinely happy for him. "Congratulations. You've earned it." "Thanks. It's weird, you know? Getting recognized for actual work instead of for the image I was trying to project. It feels better, somehow, more real." We chatted for a few more minutes, and he told me he was going to use part of his raise to increase his debt repayments rather than upgrading his lifestyle. Another good sign. After we hung up, I sat at my desk smiling. This was progress. Real, substantial progress. My brother was starting to find satisfaction in honest achievement rather than the illusion of success he'd been chasing for so long. 2 weeks later, I received an unexpected email from a publisher. They'd heard about my literacy programs and personalized recommendation system from the library director, and they were interested in turning my approach into a book for libraries, schools, and parents. Reading Pathways, Connecting Individuals with Life-Changing Books, would be a guide to helping people find books that genuinely spoke to their interests, needs, and reading levels. I was stunned. Writing a book had never been on my radar, but the more I thought about it, the more excited I became. I had years of experience matching readers with books they'd love, and I'd developed systems and approaches that could help others do the same. The advance wasn't huge, but it was respectable, especially for a first-time author writing a specialized nonfiction book. More importantly, it was validation of my approach to librarianship and my belief that the right book at the right time could genuinely change someone's life. When I shared the news with my parents, they were thrilled. My mom immediately started telling all her friends that her child was becoming a published author. My dad, not usually emotional, got teary-eyed and told me he'd always known I had something special to offer the world. The most surprising reaction, though, came from my brother. I'd been nervous about telling him, worried that my success might trigger his old insecurities and competitive nature. But when I called him with the news, his excitement seemed genuine. "That's amazing," he exclaimed. "A book deal? Wow. And it's perfect because it's exactly what you're passionate about." "Thanks," I said, relieved by his positive response. "I'm excited but also kind of terrified. I've never written anything this big before." "You'll be great at it," he assured me. "You've always been the thoughtful one, the one who sees what people really need and helps them find it." There was a pause, and then he added, "I'm really proud of you, you know. And I'm sorry for all those years I made fun of your career." I didn't get it. I was measuring everything by money and status, and I missed what actually matters. I felt a lump in my throat. That means a lot, I said quietly. Maybe when your book comes out, you could sign a copy for me? He asked, a hint of his old confident charm returning, but without the arrogance. Absolutely, I laughed. I'll give you the very first one. Over the next few months, I divided my time between my expanded role at the library and writing my book. It was challenging but fulfilling work, and I found myself happier and more energized than I'd been in years. My brother continued his steady progress. He still had moments of backsliding, once boasting to a new colleague about a non-existent MBA, which he later had to awkwardly correct. But these incidents became rarer as he grew more comfortable in his own skin. His therapist helped him understand that his compulsive lying stemmed from deep-seated insecurity and a fear that he wasn't inherently worthy of respect or love, without impressive achievements to his name. 9 months after the wedding disaster, our family gathered for Thanksgiving dinner at our parents' house. As we sat around the table sharing what we were grateful for, I looked at my brother, really looked at him, and saw someone different from the person who had mockingly toasted my mediocrity at his wedding. His designer clothes had been replaced with more modest attire. The flashy watch was gone. Even his posture was different, less performatively confident, more genuinely at ease. When it was his turn to share, he cleared his throat nervously. I'm grateful for second chances, he said, looking around the table, and for family who love you enough to tell you the truth, even when it hurts. A year ago, I was living a lie and hurting everyone around me. Today, I'm not where I thought I'd be, but I'm where I need to be, and that's enough. Our mom wiped away a tear, and our dad reached over to squeeze his shoulder. When my turn came, I simply said, I'm grateful for authenticity, for the freedom that comes with being exactly who you are and doing exactly what you love, without apology. After dinner, as my brother and I were washing dishes together, a chore he would have considered beneath him a year earlier, he turned to me with a serious expression. You know, in a weird way, my wedding was the best thing that could have happened to me, he said, handing me a plate to dry. It was rock bottom, absolutely humiliating, but necessary. I needed that wake-up call. It wasn't exactly fun for me either, I reminded him with a wry smile. He winced. God, I was such an ass to you. That speech, I don't even know what I was thinking. I guess I was so wrapped up in my own insecurities that putting you down made me feel better somehow. Water under the bridge, I said, and I meant it. The hurt of that moment had faded, replaced by satisfaction at how things had turned out. Speaking of water under bridges, he said, I ran into my ex-wife's cousin last week. You know, the library director who gave you that promotion? I nodded, curious where this was going. She mentioned your book is coming along well. Said the publisher is really excited about it. Yeah. I just sent in the first complete draft. They think it might be ready for publication by next summer. He smiled, a genuine smile without a trace of jealousy. That's fantastic. From the library basement to published author. Meanwhile, I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment, driving a used Honda, and just happy to have a steady paycheck. And I prompted, sensing there was more. And I'm actually okay with that, he said, sounding surprised by his own admission. For the first time since, maybe ever, I'm not constantly comparing myself to everyone else and feeling like I'm falling short. I'm just living my life, day by day, trying to be a decent person. I bumped his shoulder with mine. That's called growth, bro. He laughed. Yeah, I guess it is. Spring arrived, bringing with it the final preparations for my book's summer release. The publisher had arranged a modest promotional tour at libraries and educational conferences in several major cities, which both thrilled and terrified me. My brother, in a touching gesture, took a day off work to help me shop for author-appropriate clothing for the events. Nothing too fancy, I insisted as we browsed a department store. I want to look professional but approachable. How about this? He suggested, holding up a blazer that was stylish but not ostentatious. You could wear it with jeans for casual events or with slacks for the more formal ones. I tried it on, surprised by how well it suited me. When did you get good at practical fashion advice? I teased. He grinned. Turns out when you're not trying to look like you make 10 times your actual salary, you develop an eye for quality basics that mix and match. As we continued shopping, he told me about a woman he'd started dating, a teacher he'd met through a friend. She knows all about my past, he said. The lies, the wedding disaster, all of it. I wanted to be completely honest from the start. How did she take it? I asked, genuinely curious. Better than I expected. She said she appreciated the honesty and that everyone has a past. We're taking it slow, but it's good. Real, you know? I did know. After years of facades and pretenses, real was exactly what our family needed. In June, just weeks before my book was due to be released, I received a call from the regional library director. The American Library Association was giving me an Innovation in Literacy Award for my outreach programs, particularly my work with seniors and rural communities. They're presenting it at the annual conference next month, she told me excitedly. It's quite an honor. They don't give many of these out. I was speechless. When I finally found my voice, I asked, "Did you nominate me?" "I did," she confirmed. "But the selection committee made the decision based on the measurable impact of your programs. The statistics speak for themselves. Circulation up 23% in senior communities, reading proficiency improvements in the rural schools you've worked with. You've made a real difference." When I shared the news with my family, they insisted on coming to the conference to see me receive the award. Even my brother immediately requested time off work to attend. "I wouldn't miss it," he said firmly. "My sibling, the award-winning author and librarian. I want to be in the front row." The day of the awards ceremony arrived with perfect June weather. I sat on the stage with the other honorees, scanning the audience until I spotted my family, parents beaming with pride, and my brother giving me an enthusiastic thumbs up. When they called my name, I walked to the podium feeling a surreal blend of pride and humility. As I accepted the plaque, I glanced down at my family again. My brother was recording the moment on his phone, his face alight with genuine happiness for me. I kept my acceptance speech brief, thanking the people who had supported my work, especially the library director who had given me the opportunity to expand my programs. I concluded with words that came straight from my heart. Libraries have always been spaces where people can discover not just knowledge, but also themselves. Through books, we find reflections of our own experiences, windows into others' lives, and doorways to new possibilities. My goal has always been to help people find the right books at the right time, books that speak to them where they are and guide them where they might go. This award belongs to every reader who has ever found themselves in the pages of a book, and to every librarian who has helped make those connections possible. Thank you. The applause was warm and affirming. As I returned to my seat, I caught my brother's eye. He mouthed brilliant with a wide smile and continued clapping until the last moment. Afterward, at the reception, my family surrounded me with hugs and congratulations. My brother hung back slightly, and when our parents moved off to get refreshments, he approached me with an envelope. "I got you something," he said, handing it to me. "It's not much, but I wanted to mark the occasion." Inside was a beautiful leather-bound journal with my initials embossed on the cover. The note inside read simply, "For your next big idea. Proud of you always. Love, your brother." I hugged him tightly, feeling the last remnants of our old, strained relationship dissolving completely. "You know," he said quietly as we separated, "a year ago, I would have been eaten alive with jealousy seeing you up on that stage. I would have found some way to diminish your achievement or make it about me somehow. And now?" I asked. He smiled, a smile of genuine contentment. "Now I'm just happy to see you getting the recognition you deserve. Your success doesn't take anything away from me. If anything, it inspires me to keep working on my own path." That evening, as we all went out to dinner to celebrate, I looked around the table at my family. My parents, now treating both their children with equal respect and pride. My brother, finally living an authentic life and finding value in honesty rather than pretense. And me, doing work I loved and being recognized for it. From the disaster of my brother's wedding had come something unexpected: healing, growth, and a family finally freed from the burden of lies and false appearances. My brother's cruel mockery had been meant to diminish me, to elevate himself at my expense. Instead, it had set in motion a chain of events that allowed both of us to become better versions of ourselves. I took out my phone and scrolled to a photo I'd saved, a picture from the wedding, taken just before everything fell apart. My brother at the microphone, me sitting stiffly in my seat, unaware of what was about to unfold. I looked at it for a moment, then deleted it. We didn't need that reminder anymore. We had built something better from the ashes of that day. As we raised our glasses in a toast, I caught my brother's eye across the table. He gave me a small, knowing smile, an acknowledgement of how far we'd both come. "To authentic success," I said, lifting my glass. "To authentic success," everyone echoed, and we drank together, A family finally whole. Update, 3 years later. It's been 3 years since my brother's disastrous wedding, and I wanted to share how things have turned out for all of us. My book, Reading Pathways, exceeded everyone's expectations, including mine. What began as a niche publication for libraries and educators caught on with parents, book clubs, and reading enthusiasts, eventually becoming a surprise bestseller in the education category. I've since written a follow-up book focusing specifically on helping reluctant readers find their way into a love of reading, and I'm currently working on a third that explores the therapeutic benefits of the right books at difficult life moments. The success of the books led to speaking engagements at educational conferences and literary festivals, something I never would have imagined for myself a few years ago. I still work at the library system, now as the Director of Community Programs, overseeing literacy initiatives throughout the region. The work remains as fulfilling as ever, and the additional income from my books and speaking engagements has allowed me to establish a foundation that provides free books to underserved schools and communities. My parents have become enthusiastic supporters of my literacy programs, with my dad now coordinating a team of volunteers who deliver books to homebound individuals, and my mom running a popular grandparent-grandchild reading circle at the main library. They've both apologized, more than once, for the years they spent undervaluing my career and life choices, but the truth is, I've moved beyond needing that validation. I'm secure in who I am and what I contribute to the world. As for my brother, his transformation has been the most remarkable of all. After working his way up to account manager at the marketing firm, he eventually decided to strike out on his own, founding a small agency that specializes in helping local businesses with honest, effective marketing strategies. His tagline, "No hype, just results," reflects his new philosophy perfectly. He's engaged to the teacher he was dating when I last wrote, a kind, grounded woman who appreciates his authentic self and gently calls him out when he occasionally slips into old habits of exaggeration. They're expecting their first child next month, and he's already amassed a library of children's books, many recommended by his expert sibling, as he likes to call me. Most importantly, he's found peace with himself. The therapy he started after the wedding revelation continues, though less frequently now, and he's become almost zealous about financial responsibility and transparency. He lives well within his means, drives a sensible car, and has paid back every cent he borrowed from our parents. We've become close in a way I never thought possible when we were younger. We have a standing monthly dinner where we catch up on each other's lives, offer support for challenges, and celebrate victories together. There's no competition, no one-upmanship, just two siblings who genuinely want the best for each other. Last month, at one of these dinners, he surprised me by pulling out a small box. "What's this?" I asked as he pushed it across the table. "Open it," he urged. Inside was his old wedding ring, now hanging on a simple chain. I looked at him, confused. "Why would you give me this?" He smiled. "I kept it as a reminder of who I was, who I never want to be again, and how close I came to losing everything that really matters. But I don't need that reminder anymore. I thought maybe you could do something with it. Melt it down for your foundation, sell it and buy books for kids, whatever feels right to you." I was touched by the gesture. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "Completely. That ring represents the old me, the facade, the lies, the desperate need for status and validation. I don't need it anymore. And honestly, I'd like to see it transformed into something positive, like you helped transform me." I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "You transformed yourself. You did the hard work." "Maybe," he conceded, "but I wouldn't have had the chance without that moment of truth at my wedding, and without you having the courage to hold me accountable afterward." I ended up selling the ring and using the money to establish a special collection at the main library, books specifically selected to help people going through major life transitions and identity crises. We called it the Second Chances Collection, and my brother was the one who cut the ribbon at the official opening. As I watch him now, honest, humble, genuinely content with his life, I sometimes think back to that painful moment at his wedding when he mocked me from the microphone. If someone had told me then that his cruel speech would ultimately lead to both of us finding our true paths and rebuilding our family on a foundation of authenticity, I would never have believed it. But life is strange that way. Sometimes the moments that feel like our greatest humiliations become the catalysts for our most meaningful transformations. My brother learned that success built on lies is no success at all. I learned that standing in my truth, even when others mock it, eventually leads to the recognition and fulfillment I never thought to seek. We're both exactly where we're supposed to be now, doing exactly what we're meant to do. And that's a kind of success neither of us could have imagined on that fateful wedding day 3 years ago.